A lot of countries have their own unique national spirit. Mexico has tequila and mezcal, Brazil has cachaça, and Peru and Chile have pisco. But in this video, we're going to be talking about Bolivia's national spirit, Singani. In this video, I want to cover three main things about Singani. First off, what is it? Secondly, because it's so similar to pisco, I want to talk about what sets Singani apart from Peruvian and Chilean pisco. And lastly, I'm going to be doing a taste test side by side with a bottle of Chilean pisco and a bottle of Peruvian pisco. I am crazy obsessed with Latin American spirits. It's something that I choose to focus heavily on at my bar and restaurant, and I really try to make cocktails for our menu here using South and Latin American spirits. I've made a bunch of videos on tequila, mezcal, pisco, cachaça, what they are, what makes them so different. And so I've actually been wanting to make this video for a really long time. Actually, I've wanted to make it since I made my first pisco video a bunch of months ago. But I finally got my hands on a bottle of Singani 63, which is actually kind of cool because it is a company and brand owned by Steven Soderbergh, who is a Hollywood director, which is really, really cool in and of itself. Right, enough of my rambling. What is Singani? Well, Singani is the national spirit of Bolivia, and it is a spirit that is distilled from one very specific kind of grape, the Moscatel Alexandria grape. So it is essentially a brandy. It is very similar to pisco. And I have a bottle of Machu Pisco here, as well as a bottle of El Gobernador Chilean pisco as well. So all three of these spirits, they kind of come from one shared origin. Pisco and Singani came about when the Spanish introduced certain kinds of grapes to the area that today is known as Bolivia, Peru, and Chile. If you want to know more about the history of this, and actually if you want to learn about the really crazy rivalry that Chile and Peru have about who actually gets to own and call it pisco, my video on what is pisco is definitely a great place to start, because I also do dive in a little bit into the origins of Singani as well. But to kind of summarize it for you, all three of these spirits have a shared origin. When the Spanish came over and they kind of were trying to take all over the world, and they owned the area that is today Bolivia, Chile, and Peru, they introduced certain grapes that then would go on to then become these amazing spirits. Chile and Peru fought a bloody war. They really started to go back and forth about who gets to own and call it pisco, whereas the people of Bolivia were like, whatever, man, we're gonna just call our thing Singani and avoid fighting with you guys. And that's what they did. Let's kind of dive into what sets these spirits apart, because there would be no real reason to have a different name for all of them if there weren't actually any differences between them. So one of the cool things is that Chilean pisco can be made using 13 different varieties of grapes. Peruvian pisco is made using only 8 variety of grapes. Singani is made using 1 variety of grape. And the cool thing about it is that Singani's DO, or its denomination of origin, meaning it is a set of laws. A DO is essentially a set of laws that dictate where and how a spirit can be made. And the DO for Singani is actually unique in the world, because not only does it dictate the location of where Singani can be made to Bolivia, it actually also says that the Singani can only be produced from grapes grown over 5,200 feet above sea level. If you don't know this, Bolivia is a very mountainous country, high elevation. The capital of Bolivia, La Paz, is the tallest capital in the world. It is up in the mountains. It is absolutely beautiful, and it's one of the places that I really want to visit in my life. I've seen a lot of photos and videos of Bolivia. It is stunningly gorgeous. And so why does that matter? Well, the really interesting thing about Bolivia is that they found out that the Moscatel Alexandria grape grows amazingly in the conditions of Bolivia's landscape, meaning they have the best terrain and ground and earth to grow this specific grape because of the high altitude. It creates the best flavor for the Moscatel Alexandria grape. So they just realized, they're like, well, since we are the best at cultivating and growing this grape, why don't we just only make our spirit using that one grape? And it worked out for them. And there's a lesson, kids. Lean into your unique strengths. So what do these three spirits taste like? Well, they are very, very floral in nature. They are very delicate and they're very aromatic, especially Singani more so than, say, the Chilean Pisco. They are easy sippers, they're not harsh on the palate, and I like to say, and I like to tell people that this is a great alternative to vodka because quite frankly, no one should be drinking vodka if there are other amazing spirits out there like these. Let's get to tasting these spirits and then that way I can kind of compare and contrast them. Because these three spirits are so delicate, we're gonna find a majority of the differences in the subtleties and the subtle natures. It's a very delicate spirit when you're working with these kinds of grapes. But here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna grab 3 glasses and we're gonna taste these 3 and kind of compare them and contrast them. And what is very interesting to note here is that this Chilean Pisco is actually using Moscatel grapes as well. So I think the comparison between those two is gonna be very, very fascinating. So I'm just gonna pour out a little bit of each. All right, we are gonna start from the Chilean Pisco side, and I understand that these don't represent the entirety of each of these country spirits, but this is what I have on hand, and hopefully through tasting this, I can show you guys the subtle differences between the 3. So on the nose of the El Gobernador, you have a nice subtle smell hitting the nose, floral in nature, very grassy, kind of just like you're taking a stroll through a garden. And that's kind of what it smells like, but very subtly. It's not an overpowering amount of floralness, florality, floral flavors. But overall, super easy to sip on. It's very delicate. It doesn't have much of a bite. It doesn't really make you pucker. Like it tastes like it smells, lightly floral. We're gonna skip the Singani and make our way back to it, and then we're gonna try out the Machu Pisco. This is using the Quebranta grape, which is probably the grape that is used in about 90% of Peruvian Pisco production. So this, I would say, is a good representation of what Peruvian Pisco tastes like. So on the nose, you get a lot more of almost like a much stronger smell. It's not as subtle, it's not as delicate as the El Gobernador, but it is still floral in nature. So we're gonna give this one a sip. It's funny because the taste of this is much more subtle than the nose of it. It has a little bit of bite towards the end, but it's just that it's more typical of a Quebranta grape. It's that floralness, but also a good, delicate flavor with a little bit of a punch at the end. And then let's move on to the Singani. So off the bat, that the nose has the punch that the Peruvian Pisco has, but like 3 times more. It is super floral, very aromatic, and very, very, I already said floral. Let's give it a taste. It is, I want to say that it's slightly perfumey, but I don't want that to sound, I don't want that to turn you off from it. It's very, very floral. It's an intense floral flavor, but in a really good way. It's not like you're drinking a bottle of perfume, but it's that similar, it's probably the worst way I can describe it. You're probably all thinking, oh my God, that sounds disgusting, but I promise you, it is not. It's just a very strong, aromatic, floral flavor that the Singani has in spades compared to the other two. It's a much stronger flavor in the Singani than in both of these. And in a way, I would say that it's almost like a scale of floralness, where the El Gobernador is at the lower end of very light floralness or florality, and then you have the Machu Pisco, and then you have Singani. But there you have it, guys. I hope this video gave you a good introduction into what Singani is. It's something that I'm very, very passionate about, talking about Latin American spirits, and especially the ones that are from South America. And Singani is an incredible spirit that it's kind of hard to find in the US. To produce this spirit, it takes a whole community effort. All of the grapes need to be hand-picked. These vines grow on the side of mountains. it really is a community effort, and it helps a lot of people in Bolivia if you drink more Singani. It's a spirit that I'm so excited to hopefully get to put a cocktail on our menu with and get to explore for the future. And I hope that you were able to get something out of this video, especially if you've watched my other Pisco videos. I get that in this video, it seems like these are all very similar spirits, and they are in their nature, but the subtlety and the details, you know what they say, the devil's in the details, you know? And so that's kind of where the differences lie. There is so much culture attached to these three spirits, and they have such a strong cultural identity that it's just incredible to get to learn about and talk about. And so, yeah, while they kind of taste relatively similar, they do have different applications, and they have, like I said, there's a different strength of flavor depending on which bottle you have. And so I just hope that this video was able to shed some light on that. If you enjoyed it, it would mean the world to me if you can come out over here, hit that like button, and leave me a comment down below. Have you ever tried Singani? Have you ever tried Pisco? I would really appreciate it because I love making these videos, but I also run a restaurant full time. So it is pretty difficult to do both at the same time. But if you comment and you hit that like button, YouTube will hopefully show this to more people, meaning that more people will see me, meaning that I can possibly keep doing this and that it becomes feasible for me. I don't want to stop making these videos, and yes, I am guilt tripping you. But there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little lesson on Singani. I'm sure there's way more that we can talk about, but that's all I have for you today. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.